Senior observer Thexanol had worked at monitoring station Delta 7 for 43 years. In all that time, nothing unusual had ever happened. The job was simple and boring. Watch the screens, record the data, and report anything strange. But nothing was ever strange. Not in the Caldrith Empire. The Empire controlled 40,000 star systems. They had the best technology in the galaxy. Their quantum archive held information about every single ship, every species, every piece of technology that existed. The archive was 50 million years old. It knew everything. That's why Thexanol stared at his screen in disbelief. "That can't be right," he muttered. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence the way his people did when confused. The screen showed a vessel at the edge of Caldrith space. But this vessel wasn't in the archive. There was no data, no identification, no origin point. The computer simply labeled it unknown. That word hadn't appeared on a screen in 12,000 years. Thexanol ran the diagnostic program. Maybe the equipment was broken. He waited 3 minutes while the computer checked every system. Everything worked perfectly. He ran the diagnostic again. Same result, then a third time. His hands trembled slightly as he pressed the buttons. All systems normal. The reading was real, but that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was the speed. The vessel was moving at 0.85 light speed. Thexanol knew the fastest ships in the galaxy. The Caldrith Imperial fleet could reach 0.6 light speed at maximum power. The Vex traders, known for their quick courier ships, managed 0.55. Even the mysterious HFY raiders only hit 0.52. Nobody moved at 0.85. It was impossible. The energy requirements alone would need a power core the size of a moon, and this vessel was small. Only 300 meters long. That was tiny compared to Imperial ships. Yet somehow it generated energy readings equal to a capital warship. Thexanol reached for the emergency communication panel. His hand shook. He had never used this panel before. Nobody at Delta 7 had ever used it. "This is monitoring station Delta 7 calling Imperial Command. Priority Alpha. Repeat, Priority Alpha. We have an unknown contact." The response came immediately. "Delta 7, confirm your last message." "Did you say unknown?" "Confirmed. Unknown vessel. No archive match. Moving at 0.85 light speed at bearing 77 Mark 32. There was a long pause. Then a different voice came on. Deeper, with authority. "Delta 7, this is Admiral Kreshitar. Run a full diagnostic and resend your data. This reading is impossible." "Already done, sir. 3 times. All systems normal." "The contact is real." Another pause. Thexanol could imagine the chaos at Imperial Command. The Emperor himself would be notified soon. The Grand Council would be called. This was unprecedented. "Admiral," Thexanol said, his voice steadier now. "There's more. The vessel is heading directly toward Sector 47. That's the Kresh colony world. Population 8 billion. He heard the Admiral curse in Old Caldrith. It was a very bad word that nobody used in polite company. "All stations, this is Admiral Kreshitar. Emergency Protocol 7 is now active. I want the 3rd Fleet and 7th Fleet to intercept course immediately. Scramble every long-range scanner from here to the outer rim. Find out everything about this ship." Thexanol watched his screen as the Imperial fleet began moving. Dozens of ships left their patrol routes and headed toward the unknown vessel. The fleet was impressive. Massive warships that had protected the Empire for thousands of years. Each one bristled with weapons that could crack a planet in half, but they were slow. At their best speed, the fleet would take 11 hours to reach intercept position. The unknown vessel would arrive in 7. More data came through. Scientists across the Empire analyzed every detail. The vessel's hull material wasn't in the archive. Its energy signature didn't match any known fusion, antimatter, or quantum drive. Even its shape was strange. Sleek and smooth, unlike the angular designs the Caldrith used. "Sir," one of Thexanol's junior operators called out. "The vessel is slowing down." Everyone in the station looked at her screen. She was right. The vessel was decelerating, fast, very fast. In just 6 minutes, it went from 0.85 light speed to a complete stop. Thexanol felt his blood run cold. The inertial forces from that deceleration should have turned everyone inside into paste. No living thing could survive that. Even with the best inertial dampeners, you needed at least 30 minutes to slow down safely from those speeds. This ship did it in 6. "What are they?" someone whispered. The Admiral's voice came back on. All ships hold position at maximum weapon range. Do not, I repeat, do not engage unless fired upon. We don't know what we're dealing with. The Imperial fleet formed a sphere around the unknown vessel. 300 ships, the pride of the Empire, all aimed at one small craft that sat motionless in space. Then something happened that made everything even stranger. The vessel began broadcasting. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies," Thexnell reported. "Audio and visual. Put it through," the Admiral ordered. Sound filled the station. It was a language, but not any language in the archive. The computer immediately began working to translate it. The process usually took seconds. The archive held millions of languages. This time it took 47 minutes. Finally, text appeared on Thexnell's screen. He read it aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. "We come in peace. We are explorers from Earth. Earth." The computer searched the archive. No results. No planet called Earth existed in any database. No species from there. No records, nothing. The broadcast continued. The translation became smoother as the computer learned more. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the exploration vessel Magellan. We mean no harm. We are on a mission of discovery and peaceful contact. We apologize if we startled you. We didn't know anyone lived in this area. Our charts showed empty space." Admiral Kreshitar's voice was carefully controlled. "Unknown vessel Magellan, this is Admiral Kreshitar of the Kaldrith Imperial Fleet. You have entered Sovereign Empire space without authorization. You are surrounded. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." The response came back quickly. The voice was female, calm and friendly. "Admiral Kreshitar, hello. Great to meet you. We're happy to cooperate. Just one question, though. How do we power down? We're not using engines in the traditional sense. We can shut off the main drive if that helps." The Admiral looked at his science officer, Lord Vectha. The old scientist's face showed complete confusion. "Not using engines?" Vectha said. "Then how are they moving?" Captain Rodriguez answered as if she could hear him. "Oh, we use a pretty aggressive fusion array system. Lots of raw power. Not very efficient, honestly. We're still working out the bugs, but it gets us where we need to go pretty fast." Thexnell watched as more analysis came through. The scientists were going crazy. Aggressive fusion array. That was a technology from 10,000 years ago. The Kaldrith had abandoned it because it was too dangerous and wasteful. But somehow these humans had made it work. Made it work so well they could travel at impossible speeds. "Captain Rodriguez," the Admiral said slowly, "where is Earth? How long has your species had faster than light travel?" "Earth is about 6,000 light-years from here, in what you probably call the Outer Rim. And we've had FTL for about 80 years now. Why?" The entire command center went silent. 80 years. The Kaldrith took 4,000 years to go from first FTL to their current speed. These humans did it in 80. Lord Vectha spoke into his communicator. "Admiral, we need to study this. We need to understand how they did this. The implications are enormous." But Admiral Kreshitar was thinking about something else. Something that worried him. If humans could advance this fast in 80 years, what would they become in 800? In 8,000? He looked at the small ship on his screen, surrounded by the might of the Imperial fleet. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Kreshitar felt something he'd never expected to feel. Fear. Captain Elena Rodriguez floated in the zero-gravity meeting room of the Magellan, looking at the holographic display of the Kaldrith ships surrounding her vessel. 300 warships, each one at least 10 times bigger than her ship. Their weapons were locked on. One wrong move and the Magellan would become dust, she smiled. "Well, team," she said to her crew, "I think we made an impression." Her engineer, Marcus Webb, laughed nervously. "An impression? Captain, we scared them so badly they brought their entire fleet." "Third Fleet and Seventh Fleet," their communications officer, Yuki Tanaka, corrected. "According to their chatter, they have 12 fleets total. So they only brought 1/6 of their military. Only 1/6. That makes me feel so much better," Marcus said. Elena pushed off from the wall and drifted toward the display. She studied the Kaldrith ships carefully. Beautiful designs. Very symmetrical. Very organized. Everything in perfect formation. "They're old school," she said. "Look at that formation. It's from a textbook. Probably the same textbook they've been using for 1,000 years. The display shifted. A Kaldrith face appeared. 4 eyes, blue skin, elegant features. This was Admiral Kreshitar. He looked stern but not angry. More like confused. Captain Rodriguez, he said, we are ready to begin discussions. Please prepare to receive our boarding party. Boarding party? Elena raised an eyebrow. Admiral, with respect, we're not surrendering. We haven't done anything wrong. We're just passing through. You entered Imperial space without permission. We didn't know it was Imperial space. You're not on any of our charts. Actually, nobody's on our charts out here. We thought this whole area was empty. The Admiral's face showed surprise. Empty. The Kaldrith Empire has existed for 200,000 years. We control 40,000 systems. How can we not be on your charts? Elena shrugged. We're from really far away. Earth is way out on the galactic rim. We've only been exploring for 80 years. We're still making our maps. 80 years, the Admiral repeated slowly. He looked at someone off screen, then back at Elena. Captain, our scientists have analyzed your ship. Your speed is impossible with your power output. Your hull shouldn't survive the stress. Your inertial dampening doesn't match any known technology. You should all be dead. Yeah, we get that a lot, Marcus called out from behind Elena. It's because we don't really follow the rules of physics. We just sort of push through them. The Admiral blinked, all four eyes in sequence. Push through them? Elena nodded. When we invented FTL, we couldn't figure out the elegant solution. You know, the proper way to fold space or whatever. So we just built really big engines and smashed our way through. Brute force approach. A new face appeared on the screen next to the Admiral, older with silver markings on his skin. He wore robes that suggested he was important. I am Lord Vectha, Chief Scientist of the Kaldrith Empire, he said. His voice trembled slightly. Captain Rodriguez, what you describe is insane. The energy requirements alone would require a fusion core 10 times the size of your ship. We use 16 cores, Elena said cheerfully. They're packed pretty tight. It's actually kind of uncomfortable in engineering because of the heat. Marcus has to wear a cooling suit. Lord Vectha stared at her. 16 cores. In a 300-meter ship. Where do your crew live? Oh, we don't have much crew space. Just 20 people on board. We sleep in bunks stacked 3 high. The rest of the ship is engines, fuel, and life support. It's not luxurious, but it gets us around. 20 people, the scientist whispered, controlling 16 fusion cores. One malfunction and you would all die instantly. That's why we have really good engineers, Elena said, gesturing at Marcus. He's kept us alive for 3 years now. 3 years? Lord Vectha looked horrified. How long do your ships last? The Magellan is our longest-running exploration vessel. Most of our ships are experimental. They usually last about 18 months before we have to rebuild them. We learn from each failure and make the next one better. The Admiral and the scientist looked at each other. Elena could see them struggling to understand. In their world, ships lasted for centuries. They were built to perfection. They followed every safety protocol. Humans didn't have that luxury. They were too new to space. So they experimented. They took risks. They failed often and learned quickly. Captain, the Admiral said slowly, we need to understand your technology. For the security of the Empire, we must know how you achieve these speeds. We request that you share your propulsion data with us. Elena's smile disappeared. Request or demand, Admiral? Request, he said, but his tone suggested otherwise. I see. Elena crossed her arms. And if we politely decline? Then we will be forced to detain your vessel for further study. The meeting room of the Magellan went quiet. Yuki looked worried. Marcus cracked his knuckles nervously. Elena just stared at the Admiral. Admiral Kreshitar, she said, her voice cold now. Humanity didn't crawl out of our gravity well and cross 6,000 light years just to be bullied. We came in peace. We've been nothing but friendly. And now you're threatening us? It's not a threat. It's protocol. Unknown vessels must be verified. We're verified. We're human. From Earth, we explore space. That's all the verification you need. Lord Vectha spoke up quickly. Captain, please understand. In 200,000 years, the Kaldrith have never encountered a species like yours. You advance too quickly. Your technology is too unpredictable. It makes the Empire nervous. That sounds like a you problem, Elena said bluntly. Not a me problem. The Admiral's face hardened. Captain Rodriguez, I admire your spirit. But you are one ship. We are 300. Stand down. Elena looked at her crew. Marcus gave her a tiny nod. Yuki checked her console and nodded too. The numbers were good. Admiral, Elena said, turning back to the screen, thank you for the conversation. It's been educational. We're going to continue our journey now. We'd appreciate coordinates to the nearest inhabited system where we can trade and refuel. That request is denied. You will remain here until— We're not asking permission, Admiral. We're being polite. There's a difference. Elena pushed off toward her command chair and strapped in. Yuki, plot us a course to the nearest system. Doesn't matter which one. Marcus, prep the experimental drive. The experimental drive? Marcus grinned. Captain, you know that's not really tested yet. When has that ever stopped us? Besides, I'm curious to see what this baby can really do. The Admiral's face filled with alarm. Captain, do not attempt to leave. We will fire on you. No, you won't, Elena said calmly. You want to study us, remember? Can't study us if we're space dust. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have places to be. She nodded to Marcus. He pressed a series of buttons on his console. The fusion cores roared to life, all 16 of them at maximum power. The Magellan trembled. Alarms beeped. The lights flickered. Captain, Marcus said. The experimental drive is showing some instability. Will it work? Probably. Good enough for me. Punch it. The Caldrith fleet reacted immediately. Weapon systems powered up. Orders were shouted. The Admiral was screaming something on the display. Then the Magellan moved. It didn't accelerate like a normal ship. It didn't build up speed gradually. It just went. 0 to 0.95 light speed in 4 seconds. The Caldrith sensors lost track of it immediately. Their targeting computers couldn't keep up. One moment the Magellan was there, surrounded by 300 ships. The next moment it was gone. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Kreshitar stared at the empty space where the human ship had been. Lord Vectha was gripping his console, his face pale. What just happened? The Admiral asked quietly. They're gone, sir, a junior officer reported. Tracking lost. Last known heading was toward Sector 19 at 0.95 light speed. 0.95, Vectha repeated. That's 0.35 faster than us. They were playing with us before. They could have run at any time. The Admiral sat down heavily in his command chair. Get me the Emperor. Now. As the communication connected, Vectha spoke quietly. Admiral, I need to review all data on these humans. Everything we recorded. Why? Because they terrify me, the scientist said honestly. And I think they should terrify the Empire too. The Admiral nodded slowly. For 200,000 years, the Caldrith had been the dominant power. They had the best technology, the strongest military, the most knowledge. But now a species that barely left their planet 80 years ago had just embarrassed them. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Admiral Kreshitar had a disturbing thought. If humans could do this in 80 years, what would they become in 800? Emperor Jeanmal sat on the eternal throne in the Grand Palace of Kaldros Prime. Around him stood the members of the Grand Council. Every one of them looked worried. Some looked scared. In 200,000 years of Empire history, an emergency council meeting like this had only been called 17 times. The holographic display showed the entire galaxy. Small red dots marked where human ships had been spotted. There were 14 dots, all in different sectors, all spotted within the last 6 days. This is impossible, Council Member Thexerin said, her voice sharp. One ship cannot be in 14 places in 6 days. Even at their speed, the distances are too great. Admiral Kreshitar stood at the center of the room. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. They have more ships, at least 14, possibly more. Each one as fast as the Magellan or faster. How many humans are there? The Emperor asked quietly. Lord Vectha stepped forward, holding a data tablet. Based on energy signatures and ship sizes, we estimate each vessel carries between 15 and 30 crew members. If they have 20 ships, that's approximately 400 to 600 humans currently in our space. 600? Council Member Dreshkal laughed bitterly. 600 humans are making the entire Empire nervous. This is embarrassing. It should make us nervous, Vectha said sharply, because those 600 represent a species we completely underestimated. The holographic display changed. Now it showed the Magellan's acceleration data. The curve was nearly vertical. Look at this, Vectha said. Their acceleration should kill them. The G-forces would crush their organs, liquefy their bones. But they survive. Either they have inertial dampening technology centuries ahead of ours, or— He paused. Or what? The Emperor asked. Or they're just tougher than us, physically stronger, more resistant to damage. Vectha pulled up another image. It showed Captain Rodriguez from the video call. I've been studying their physiology. They're bipedal, like 70% of known species, but their bone density is unusual. Their muscle structure is very efficient. They evolved on a heavy gravity world, probably around 1.2 standard gravities. So they're strong, Dreshkal said. That doesn't explain their technology. No, but it explains their mindset, Vecta said. They come from a dangerous world. High gravity means more dangerous falls, worse weather, stronger predators. They evolved to take risks because their entire planet is a risk. That's why they build ships that should kill them. They're used to danger. Admiral Kreshitar pulled up another report. There's more. We've intercepted human communications. They've made contact with the Velth, the Kron, and the Hesper Unity. The room went silent. Those three species lived in the outer regions of Empire space. The Kaldreth had kept them technologically limited on purpose. It was easier to control neighbors who couldn't build advanced weapons or fast ships. What did the humans tell them? The Emperor asked, his voice dangerous now. Everything, Kreshitar said. Navigation data, medical technology, agricultural techniques. The humans are just giving it away. No payment, no demands. They call it goodwill. Council member Thexrin slammed her hand on the table. This is unacceptable. They're destabilizing our entire region. Those species could become threats. Or allies, a younger council member said quietly. His name was Jextar, and he rarely spoke at meetings. Perhaps that's what the humans want. Allies, not subjects, and we don't need allies, Thexrin snapped. We have order. We have stability. We have stagnation, Jextar said louder now. When was the last time the Empire invented something new? Really new? Not an improvement on old technology, but something revolutionary. The room went quiet. Nobody could answer. Jextar continued. I've been reading the historical records. 5,000 years ago we invented quantum communication. 4,000 years ago we perfected antimatter containment. 3,000 years ago we created the archive. But for the last 2,000 years? Nothing. We've been maintaining what we have. Perfecting it. But not creating. Perfection takes time, Thexrin said coldly. Perfection is another word for being afraid to fail. Jextar shot back. These humans fail constantly. Their ships break down. Their technology is dangerous. But they learn from every failure. They iterate. They improve. In 80 years, they've gone from first flight to speeds we can't match. Lord Vecta nodded slowly. He's right. I've reviewed their technical data. Their approach is chaos. Nothing follows our protocols. Everything is experimental. But it works because they're not afraid to try new things. Emperor Jeanmal raised his hand for silence. Admiral Kreshitar, what is your assessment of the human threat level? The Admiral took a deep breath. Militarily? Currently low. They have exploration ships, not warships. Maybe 20 to 30 vessels total. We have 12 fleets with over 4,000 ships. We could destroy them, but, the Emperor prompted, but in 10 years? 20? They advance so fast. If they decide to build warships using their speed and their creativity, they could become a serious problem. Then we should strike now, Thexrin said. While they're weak, no. The Emperor's voice was firm. We will not start a war with a species we don't understand. Besides, how would we strike? We can't catch them. As if on cue, an alert chimed. A young officer entered the chamber looking nervous. Forgive the interruption, Your Majesty, she said. But there's a human ship requesting permission to approach Keldros Prime. Every council member started talking at once. The Emperor raised his hand again. What kind of ship? They identify it as a diplomatic vessel. The Endeavor. They're requesting an audience with you, Your Majesty. They want to talk, and I quote, equals to equals. Thexrin laughed harshly. Equals? They have 30 ships. We have thousands. How are we equal? But the Emperor wasn't laughing. He was thinking. These humans were bold, crazy perhaps, but also very dangerous if made into enemies. How long until they arrive? He asked. They're already here, Your Majesty. They're in orbit. The room erupted again. Already here? Keldros Prime had the best defenses in the Empire. Thousands of satellites, hundreds of defense platforms, advanced scanning networks. Nothing should be able to reach orbit without being detected hours in advance. How did they get past our defenses? Admiral Kreshitar demanded. The young officer looked embarrassed. They didn't avoid them, sir. They just came in so fast that by the time we detected them, they were already here. They've been waiting in orbit for 20 minutes. They sent a polite message asking if now was a good time to talk. Emperor Jeanmal felt a headache forming behind his eyes. These humans were going to be a problem. He could feel it, but they were also fascinating. "Tell them," he said slowly, "that I will grant them an audience. Tomorrow at noon. Standard diplomatic protocols." The officer bowed and left. Lord Vekatha moved closer to the Emperor. "Your Majesty, with respect, is this wise? We know nothing about them." "Exactly," the Emperor said. "We know nothing, so we must learn. Besides, they came here, to our capital. Either they're incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Or both," Admiral Kreshtar muttered. The Emperor stood up, looking at the holographic display showing the Endeavour in orbit above his world. A small ship. Insignificant compared to the might of the Empire, but speed made it dangerous. Innovation made it unpredictable, and courage made it impossible to intimidate. "Council dismissed," the Emperor said. "Admiral Lord Vekatha, remain. We need to prepare for tomorrow." As the council members filed out, Jextar approached the Emperor. "Your Majesty, may I attend the meeting tomorrow?" "Why?" "Because I think these humans might teach us something we've forgotten." The Emperor studied the young council member. "And what is that?" "How to dream," Jextar said simply. The Emperor didn't answer, but he nodded. That night, across Kaldros Prime, the news spread. Humans had arrived. The mysterious species that moved too fast and knew nothing of Empire protocol had come to the capital. Some citizens were afraid. Others were curious. A few were excited. But everyone knew that tomorrow would be important. The Empire had been the same for thousands of years, stable, predictable, powerful, but now humanity had arrived and nothing would be the same again. Ambassador Marcus Chen walked down the grand corridor of the Imperial Palace and he was not impressed. Oh, it was beautiful. Crystal walls that sparkled. Floating lights that moved like stars. Floors so polished he could see his reflection. But it was also cold, empty, too perfect. Two Kaldrith guards walked beside him. They were both tall and elegant, wearing ceremonial armor that probably hadn't seen real combat in centuries. They kept glancing at him nervously. Chen smiled at them. "Nice place you've got here." The guards didn't respond. They probably weren't allowed to talk to him. Behind Chen walked Captain Elena Rodriguez. She had insisted on coming, even though this was a diplomatic meeting. "Just in case things go wrong," she had said. Chen knew that really meant she didn't trust the Empire not to try something stupid. The corridor opened into a massive chamber. The Eternal Throne sat at the far end, elevated on a platform. Emperor Janmal sat there looking regal and imposing. Around him stood the Grand Council. Dozens of Kaldrith in formal robes, all watching Chen with 4 eyes each. Chen walked right up to the throne. He didn't bow. He just smiled and waved. "Your Majesty," he said cheerfully. "Thanks for seeing us. I'm Marcus Chen, Earth's ambassador to this region. This is Captain Rodriguez. She's here for moral support." The Emperor stared at him. The entire council stared at him. Nobody moved. Finally, Council Member Thexrin spoke. "Ambassador Chen, you are in the presence of Emperor Jeanmal, ruler of the Kaldrith Empire, master of 40,000 systems, keeper of the eternal flame. You will show proper respect." Chen looked at Elena. She shrugged. He looked back at the council. "No disrespect intended," he said. "But we're here to talk as equals. You don't bow to me, I don't bow to you. Fair? Fair?" Thexrin looked like she might explode. "You represent a species with 30 ships. We have thousands. How are we equal?" Chen pulled out a small tablet and pressed a button. A holographic star map appeared showing human space. "We have 30 ships here in your area. But back home we've got 300 more in production, 5 space stations, 12 colony worlds, and about 8 billion very curious, very determined humans who really want to see what's out here in the galaxy." He zoomed the map out. "Your empire is old and powerful. We respect that. But you can't catch our ships. You can't stop us from exploring. You can't control where we go or who we talk to. So yeah, we're equal. Because neither of us can force the other to do anything." The room went silent. Chen could see he had made his point. The Empire was used to controlling everything. But they couldn't control humanity. That made the Empire nervous. Good. Nervous meant they'd listen. Emperor Jeanmal spoke for the first time. His voice was calm and measured. "Ambassador Chen, your logic is sound. We cannot control you, but we could destroy you. You could try. Elena said from behind Chen. She said it casually, like she was commenting on the weather. The Emperor's eyes focused on her. You doubt the Imperial fleet? I doubt you could catch us long enough to destroy us. And even if you did, Earth would send more ships. Then more. We're persistent like that. Eventually you'd get tired of chasing us and we'd still be here. So maybe let's skip the whole war thing and just talk? Chen bit back a smile. Elena had no filter. That's why he brought her. Lord Vectha stepped forward. Ambassador Captain, please understand our position. For 200,000 years we have maintained order in this region. Your presence threatens that order. How? Chen asked genuinely. We're exploring, trading, making friends. How is that a threat? You're changing things, Vectha said. You give technology to species we've kept limited. You share information freely. You move too fast. Everything you do creates chaos. Or opportunity, said a younger council member. Chen remembered his name, Jextar. Maybe chaos is what we need. Thexrin glared at him. Councillor Jextar, that's enough. But Jextar ignored her. He walked down from the council platform and approached Chen. Ambassador, I have a question. Why do you explore? Chen blinked. Why? Yes, the Empire explored for resources. For territory. For strategic advantage. But you seem to explore for no reason. Why? Chen thought about it. Because it's there. Because we're curious. Because sitting still is boring, he grinned. When humans discovered fire, we didn't just use it for warmth. We asked what else burns. When we invented boats, we didn't just fish near shore. We sailed out to see what was beyond the horizon. When we reached space, we didn't stop at our moon. We kept going. It's who we are. You explore for adventure, Jextar said, wonder in his voice. Yeah, pretty much. That's insane, Thexrin said. That's humanity, Elena added proudly. Admiral Kreshitar had been silent until now. He stepped forward, looking directly at Elena. Captain Rodriguez, I reviewed the footage of your escape. Your acceleration should have killed everyone aboard. It almost did, Elena admitted. 2 people passed out. Marcus threw up. I bit my tongue so hard I bled, but we survived. Why take such a risk? Because you were trying to bully us. Nobody bullies Earth and gets away with it, she smiled. Also, we needed to test the experimental drive anyway. Seemed like a good opportunity. The Admiral shook his head in disbelief. Then surprisingly he laughed. It was a short, sharp laugh, but genuine. You're all crazy? Yeah, we get that a lot, Chen said. The Emperor raised his hand. Enough. Ambassador Chen, Captain Rodriguez, here is our proposal. The Empire will grant humanity permission to travel through our space. In exchange, you will share the principles of your propulsion technology, not the exact specifications. Just the theory, Chen considered it. And what else? We want to establish a cultural exchange program. Send Kaldrith citizens to Earth, learn from each other. That was better than Chen expected. He glanced at Elena. She nodded slightly. Deal, Chen said, with one condition. You open the trade routes to the Velthkrone and Hesper Unity. Let them trade freely. Stop limiting their technology. Thexrin looked outraged. Absolutely not. That would destabilize the entire region. Or make it stronger, Jextar said. Strong allies are better than controlled subjects. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. His 4 eyes studied Chen carefully. You care about species you just met, why? Because it's the right thing to do, Chen said simply. They deserve the same chances we got. The freedom to grow, to learn, to make their own mistakes. Mistakes, the Emperor repeated. The Empire doesn't make mistakes. We plan, we perfect, we maintain order. And you've been doing the same thing for 2,000 years, Elena said. No offense, Your Majesty, but you're stagnant. You've stopped growing. That's not order. That's stasis. More gasps from the council. Nobody talked to the Emperor like that. But Janmal didn't look angry. He looked thoughtful. Admiral Kreshitar, he said, your honest opinion. Do we need what the humans have? The Admiral took a deep breath. Yes, Your Majesty. Not just their technology. Their mindset. We've become too comfortable, too safe. We've forgotten how to take risks. Traitor, Thexrin hissed. Realist, Kreshitar corrected. I've served the Empire for 300 years. I've seen us decline slowly. So slowly nobody noticed. But these humans held up a mirror. And what I see reflects back disturbs me. Lord Vectha nodded. I agree. We must adapt or become irrelevant. The Emperor stood up from his throne. The entire room went silent. He walked down the steps, past the guards, past the council, until he stood directly in front of Chen. Ambassador, I accept your condition. The trade routes will open, but know this. If humanity causes chaos, if your freedom leads to war, I will hold you personally responsible. Chen extended his hand. A human gesture. If we screw up, you can blame me. Fair enough. The Emperor looked at Chen's hand. Then slowly he reached out and shook it. His grip was firm but not crushing. Fair enough, the Emperor said. Behind them, Jextar smiled. Elena looked relieved. Admiral Kreshtar nodded with respect. Only Thexren looked angry. But she stayed silent. The meeting continued for 3 more hours. Details were discussed. Treaties were drafted. Exchange programs were planned. But the real work had already been done. Humanity and the Kaldrith Empire had reached an understanding. Not a perfect one. There would be problems, disagreements, cultural clashes, but it was a start. As Chen and Elena walked back to the Endeavor, Elena nudged him. That went better than expected. Nobody shot at us. The bar for successful diplomacy is pretty low with you, Chen said, smiling. They reached their ship. As they boarded, Elena paused and looked back at the palace. Marcus, did we just change the galaxy? Chen thought about it. Maybe. Or maybe we just reminded them what they used to be. The Endeavor lifted off, its engines humming with power. Below on Kaldros Prime, the Empire began the slow process of change. It would take years, maybe decades. But the first step had been taken, and somewhere in space, the Magellan received a message from Chen. Treaty signed. Galaxy just got a lot more interesting. Captain Rodriguez smiled and set course for the next unexplored system. There was always more to see. The treaty signing ceremony was almost finished. Ambassador Chen stood next to Emperor Jean Mal, both of them holding the signed document. Cameras recorded the historic moment. The Grand Council looked on, some happy, some still doubtful. Then the alarm started. Red lights flashed throughout the palace. A horrible wailing sound filled the air. Guards rushed into the room, their weapons suddenly at the ready. Admiral Kreshtar grabbed a communication device from his belt. What's happening? He barked into it. The voice on the other end was panicked. Admiral, it's the Vecron swarm. They've entered the border sectors. Millions of them! The room went cold. Chen saw the Kaldrith faces turn pale, their 4 eyes widening in fear. What's the Vecron swarm? Elena asked, her hand moving instinctively toward her sidearm. Lord Vectha answered, his voice shaking. Our ancient enemy. They're not a civilization. They're a plague. Living ships that reproduce and evolve in battle. We fought them 5,000 years ago. It took us 300 years and cost billions of lives to drive them away. And now they're back, the Emperor said quietly. Kreshtar was shouting orders into his communicator. Mobilize all fleets. Emergency jump to the border sectors. Full battle readiness. He turned to the Emperor. Your Majesty, the 6th Fleet is closest. They can reach the border worlds in 11 days. But the swarm will arrive at the colony planets in 3 days. We have 18 billion civilians in the projected attack zone. Can we evacuate them? Chen asked. Not in 3 days. We'd need weeks. Elena pulled out her own communicator. Endeavor, this is Captain Rodriguez. Patch me through to all human vessels in the sector. Elena, what are you doing? Chen asked. Something crazy, obviously. She waited as the connection established. All human ships, this is Rodriguez. We've got a situation. Hostile force called the Vecron Swarm attacking Kaldrith border worlds. Billions of civilians at risk. How fast can you get to these coordinates? Her device beeped with responses. The Magellan answered first. Rodriguez, this is Captain Okafor on the Magellan. We're 40 light years out. We can be there in 14 hours. More voices chimed in. The Discovery. The Pathfinder. The Horizon. The Atlantic. The Beijing. 6 human ships scattered across the sector, all agreeing to come. Negative, Admiral Kreshtar said firmly. Captain Rodriguez, this is not your fight. The swarm is too dangerous. Your exploration vessels are not warships. Neither are your passenger liners, Elena shot back. But I bet you're going to use everything you've got. Our ships are designed for combat if necessary, and ours are designed to survive impossible conditions. That's pretty useful in a fight. Elena looked at Chen. Ambassador, your call. Do we help or do we follow protocol? Chen didn't hesitate. We help. That's what allies do. Emperor Zhanmal stared at them both. You barely know us. We threatened to imprison you. Why would you risk your lives for our people? Because it's the right thing to do, Chen said simply. Besides, we signed a treaty like 5 minutes ago. Allies, remember? The Emperor closed his 4 eyes briefly. When he opened them, there was something new there. Respect, Admiral, accept their help. Coordinate with the human vessels. Use whatever tactics they suggest. Your Majesty, that's an order. The next 2 days were chaos. The Kaldrith 6th Fleet, massive and powerful, lumbered toward the border. The human ships arrived much faster, reaching the threatened colonies in just 14 hours. Captain Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, now hastily refitted with whatever weapons they could install. The colony world of Threshkar hung below them. 8 billion Kaldrith lived there. In 36 hours the swarm would arrive. Okay, Elena said to her crew. We've got 6 ships. They've got millions. Anybody have any good ideas? Marcus Webb, who had transferred from the Magellan to help, pulled up a holographic display. The swarm ships are biological. They move in coordinated clusters. According to the Kaldrith data, they're very good at surrounding enemy vessels and overwhelming them with numbers. So standard tactics won't work, Elena said. Standard tactics never work for us anyway, Marcus pointed out. We don't do standard. Captain Okafor's face appeared on the screen. He was on the Magellan, now orbiting the neighboring colony world. Rodriguez, I've been thinking. The Kaldrith fight in formation. Organized, predictable, that's what the swarm expects. But we don't fight like that, Elena said, catching on. We're chaos. Exactly. The swarm evolved to counter Kaldrith tactics. They've never seen humans fight, Elena grinned. It was not a nice grin. It was the grin of someone about to do something very stupid and very dangerous. All right, people. Here's the plan. We don't protect the colonies. We can't. 6 ships against millions? We'd lose. Instead, we buy time. We confuse them. We make them chase us. How? Yuki asked from communications. We be annoying. We dart in, fire everything we've got, then run before they can respond. We split up, regroup, split up again. We make them think there are more of us than there really are. Marcus looked worried. That's going to put massive stress on our engines. We'll be pushing them past safety limits. When have we ever cared about safety limits? Fair point. The swarm arrived 36 hours later. The sky above Threshkar turned dark as millions of bioships entered the atmosphere. They looked like diseased whales, all teeth and tentacles and pulsing flesh. Their weapons were organic too, spitting acid and launching bone-like projectiles. The Kaldrith defense platforms fired first. Bright beams of energy lanced out, destroying hundreds of swarm ships. But hundreds were nothing. Thousands more took their place. Then the human ships struck. The Endeavor dove through a cluster of swarm vessels at 0.7 light speed. Its hastily installed railguns fired continuously, tearing through bioships like paper. Before the swarm could respond, the Endeavor was gone, already 3 light minutes away. The Magellan came from a different angle, its fusion cores running so hot they glowed. It didn't slow down. It just punched straight through a swarm formation, shields at maximum, smashing through them like a meteor. The other human ships followed the same pattern. Hit hard, move fast. Never stay still. The swarm had never seen anything like it. They were used to slow, predictable enemies. Humans were neither. The swarm's coordination broke down as clusters chased different human ships in different directions. It's working, Marcus shouted. They're splitting their forces. Don't celebrate yet, Elena warned. We've only bought a few hours. Where's the Kaldrith fleet? Still 7 days out, Yuki reported. 7 days. They had to hold for 7 days. Against millions of swarm ships. With 6 exploration vessels, it was impossible. So naturally the humans tried anyway. For 3 days they fought. They ran, they regrouped. They lost the Discovery when its engines finally gave out. The crew evacuated in escape pods, and the Pathfinder swooped in to grab them while dodging swarm fire. Captain Zhang on the Beijing came up with a tactic she called the fastball. She accelerated directly at a swarm cluster, built up to 0.9 light speed, then cut engines and let momentum carry her through them. The kinetic impact alone destroyed hundreds of bioships. The Kaldrith civilians watched from below in awe and terror. These humans were insane. But they were also the only thing standing between the colonies and annihilation. On day 4, the swarm adapted. They stopped chasing individual ships. Instead, they formed a massive net trying to trap the humans. Uh-oh, Marcus said. They're learning. Then we learn faster, Elena said. She opened a channel to all human ships. New plan. We all meet at these coordinates. Full speed. On my mark, we're going to do something really dumb. Dumber than what we're already doing? Captain Okafor asked. Way dumber. Trust me. All 6 remaining human ships converged at a single point just outside the swarm net. The bioship swarmed toward them, sensing an opportunity to destroy all the humans at once. Now, Elena shouted. All 6 ships fired their engines simultaneously. 16 fusion cores per ship, 96 cores total, all pointed in the same direction. The blast was incredible. A miniature star formed in space. The wave of superheated plasma washed over the swarm net, burning through millions of bioships in seconds. Then all 6 human ships jumped to maximum speed and scattered before the remaining swarm could react. Did that just work? Marcus asked, staring at his screens in disbelief. No idea, Elena admitted. I made it up 10 seconds before we did it. That's when Admiral Kreshitar arrived with the 6th Fleet. 300 massive Kaldrith warships dropped out of FTL space and immediately opened fire. Their weapons were powerful and precise, but more importantly, the humans had bought enough time to evacuate most of the civilians. The Admiral opened a channel to Elena. Captain Rodriguez, what have you done to my orderly battle space? Elena looked at the chaos around her. Burning swarm ships, scattered formations, confused enemy clusters. We made it messy. You're welcome. I don't know whether to thank you or court-martial you. Why not both? Despite everything, the Admiral laughed. Then he gave an order that shocked his entire fleet. All ships follow the human tactics. Abandon formation. Engage freely. Adapt as needed. Lord Vektha, who was aboard the flagship, looked horrified. Admiral, that's against every protocol. The humans have no protocols, Kreshitar said. And they're still alive. That tells me something.